I want to tell you about a time a presidential candidate tried to sponsor my channel. This is probably going to burn a bridge with the advertising agency, but screw it. I'm doing this for you, for America. No, for real though, I thought this video might be a cool opportunity to sort of peel back the onion and show the behind the scenes on what happens when you see these creators sharing their opinions. Now, if you're new here, you're not super familiar with all of my work, there's two things you need to know in order to understand this story. First is that once upon a time, many moons ago, I took an Uber in my puppy. And everybody loved it. I mean, how can you not? Look at that thing. Did I say Uber in my puppy? I obviously meant puppy in my Uber. But anyway, the second thing you need to know is that I had an account with my grandmother that had over 1 million followers on TikTok. Everybody loved Granny. Mama, that's insane.
You're insane. That's what keeps me alive.
And again, how could you not? Now, when you have a following on the internet, honestly, it doesn't even need to be that big of a following. I was surprised at how quickly it started. But when you have any sort of traction, the sponsorship offers will start rolling in. Now, most of them are complete garbage.
Case in point, I went to look for an example to show you, and I couldn't make this up. The day that I'm editing this video, I got an offer from Goals Plastic Surgery. In exchange for documenting the process, they would give me a free double BBL. So subscribe for my next video. Caked up Uber driver surprises riders with his fat ass. Anyway, as far as sponsorships,
even when you find something that you think is fair and it's a product or a service you might be interested in, the strings that come attached to it usually turn a lot of creators off. In general, most creators just hate dealing with every aspect of that process. But every now and again, an email will pique your interest. And I once had a sponsorship opportunity pique my interest.
and not just because they sent me 4 unanswered emails in the span of 5 days, but mainly because I had never had a politician want to sponsor my channel before.
And who was this politician that was interested in sponsoring my channel? Well, it was none other than the sitting president of the United States, old Joey Biden. To be clear, this video is not meant to be pro or against any side.
Point of this video is simply to show how absurd the political advertising process is. And it just so happened that Biden's campaign was the one that reached out to me. I know we seem to have collectively forgotten, but he was the one running for president until about 2 months ago. But by the end of this video, I'll be sure to give examples of how both Trump and Harris use these same ridiculous tactics, just to be clear that this isn't intended to be for or against any particular candidate. And if you're too dense or emotional to realize that, well, on behalf of the rest of America, do us all a favor and stay away from the polls this November.
Now, the way this works is a political action committee, or what you might know as a PAC, hires an ad agency with a specific agenda or marketing campaign in mind, and then that ad agency goes out and tries to find content creators that they think will help their cause. And that right there bothers me. It bothers my idealistic view of democracy, because think about how much money is being spent just to find the content creator. And that's not even counting what my sponsorship fee would be. And then on top of that, paying to distribute the content that I make.
You know, those annoying texts you get and those political ads you come across scrolling aren't there organically. And on that note, I have a question for you. Yes, you handsome devil. I've noticed that almost all of those annoying texts I get are almost all Republican, and then all those pre-roll ads I get on YouTube or I see on Twitter are almost all Democrat. Is that the same for you? What I'm wondering is if Republicans are focusing on phone advertising while Democrats are focusing on social media, or if it's a matter of the algorithm not being able to place me personally. But anyway, back to the sponsorship.
Now, I knew from the jump that I probably wouldn't be able to go through with this for reasons I'll explain later, but I was kind of curious to see how it worked, so I played along. When they asked me my rate, I threw out a ridiculous number given the state of my channel at the time. It it was either 5 figures or it was close to 5 figures. It was an amount that would end the conversation with most other sponsorship opportunities. And the person I was talking to did not bat an eye when I said it. And it just made me think, like, how much money is wasted on this garbage?
So I had to look it up. Almost $16 billion spent on political ads just this year. Most in history, that is, if you don't account for inflation, which, ironically, is a huge talking point this election. But here in Pennsylvania, where I'm from, almost $1 billion have been spent already, with an estimated total of $1.2 billion. You know, that's almost $125 being spent per eligible voter. No wonder they didn't bat an eye at my sponsorship fee, being that I'm in Pennsylvania. I was a super hot commodity, and I didn't even realize it.
Now, as far as the content they wanted me to make, they pitched this beautiful idea about how, regardless of anyone's political beliefs, there was an historic, one-of-a-kind, bipartisan bill that Joe Biden passed, a bipartisan infrastructure bill that would help people of all kinds. And as an Uber driver, they wanted me to talk about how this bipartisan infrastructure bill is changing my life. Basically, I have never heard somebody say bipartisan more in my entire life. And they pitched it as something that everyone was behind and everyone benefits from, something that it sounded too good to be true. And in my experience, when something sounds too good to be true, well, you know the rest. So I asked for more information about it, specifically since they wanted me to talk about how it's helping the roads in Pennsylvania. I asked, how is it helping the roads in Pennsylvania? And all I got back, essentially, was fluff. Slogans and blanket statements that really didn't tell me anything concrete. No pun intended. So if I was going to make a video about the infrastructure bill, I'm going to have to do a little research myself on the infrastructure bill. And what I found was that this whole idea of bipartisanship was actually 13 of the 213 members of Congress from across the aisle that voted for the bill. If you ask me, that's not bipartisanship. Like, imagine if only
52% of the people watching this video liked it. I would not call that a bipartisan video. And again, this isn't blaming Democrats or Republicans for the divisiveness. It takes two to tango. Or I guess in this case, not to tango. This is about how this media company tried to concoct this idea of bipartisanship when it was anything but.
Now, I said from the start, I typically stay away from politics on my channel, and I would only do something if I was able to make a fair and balanced and funny skit poking fun at everybody. And they said, that would be amazing. Our goal is to create an honest dialogue. Spoiler alert, it was not to create an honest dialogue. Again, I knew it was going to go like that, but I'm a curious cat. So I made a rough draft of this skit and I sent it over. Now, I didn't spend too much time on it because, again, I knew it wasn't going anywhere, so don't judge me on it. But I think it had a few good jokes. But more importantly, it started that honest conversation they claim they wanted. You can pause it if you want to read it, but honestly, it's the reason why I stay away from politics, because me personally, I don't know the answer to some of these questions. Questions like, sure, a lot of people benefit from better roads in Philadelphia. But is it right that some guy in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, that his taxes are going to fix the roads in Philadelphia? Or another part of the bill is water and electricity for everybody. And sure, that sounds great. But if some guy wants to move to some remote part in Colorado, is it right that all of the taxpayers have to fund water lines and cable being run all the way out to the middle of nowhere so this guy can live there? So while I thought this was a funny little skit highlighting the dialogue they claim they wanted, needless to say, it was shot down. They've since deleted the feedback they gave me and the notes they gave to punch up the script, but believe you me when I tell you, it would make an SNL skit look funny. And I mean the new SNL that sucks, not the old SNL that I grew up with. Now, I will never forget the call I had with the ad agency when I got the notes back. It's honestly changed my perspective on political advertising and the whole reason I wanted to make this video. I was telling them that, look, I just don't think this is going to work. Your notes, like, we're way too far apart. What I would want to do, feel comfortable doing, and what your notes said. And finally, this woman was getting frustrated that I wouldn't just go along with what they were doing. And she said, and I wrote it down because I was like, this is something that I never want to forget. So this is verbatim what she said. She said, look, all we need for you to do is just get in your car with your puppy or your grandmother and talk about how much President Biden has helped you. Now, this line has been burned in my brain for two reasons. One, it really highlighted how full of it political advertising is. Like, this woman never asked me how the bill actually has helped me. She didn't even give me information when I asked about it. She just saw that I had a puppy and a grandmother that had everyone's attention, and she wanted to capitalize on that attention. The second reason that what she said stood out to me was that the grandmother she wanted in that video had been dead for over a year. I wanted to scold that woman. And not because I was like upset or it made me sad or anything like that. It was because this woman, her job is literally to influence elections. And she doesn't take the time to do the due diligence to find out that the person that she wants to stump for her candidate is even alive? Like, what is going on upstairs? It's honestly a little scary when you think about how these people who literally have the power to influence elections are only concerned with furthering their own agenda and don't ask simple questions like, what does a puppy have to do with building bridges? Or why hasn't this woman that I want to sponsor not made a video in over a year? Like, on a simply human level, wouldn't you just assume something is up? Anyway, out of curiosity, I made it a point to follow the other creators that were part of this campaign. Most of them have since deleted the content, which isn't at all surprising, given that the Democrats deleted Biden from their ticket. But this one video that I don't know why they left it up definitely made me chuckle. It kind of shows you that even back then, they knew what they'd be going up against.
President Biden's leadership feels very competent right now.
Did not age well. And again, this isn't meant to bash one side or the other. I think the most solid example of bipartisanship is that we can all agree that Joe Biden is not there anymore.
This is just meant to show the racket that is political advertising. They all do it. None of them are above it. The other day, I saw Trump brought up that Bryson Hall kid. Like, why does a TikTok dancer get center stage for presidential politics? Well, here's why. Trump comes right out and says it.
This guy has 44 million people watching him.
What on God's green earth will this kid tell me about politics?
We need Trump back. Really bad. Make America great again.
Oh, nothing. Got it. Meanwhile, Kamala's over here pulling these shenanigans.
What made you want to do Call Her Daddy today?
Well, I think you and your listeners have really got this thing right, which is one of the best ways to communicate with people is to be real, and to talk about the things that people really care about.
Yeah, people really care about Noah Centineo's weirdest hookup among these other groundbreaking topics. I wish Kamala would just take her own advice and realize people would appreciate what's real and gave the real, honest answer, which is, I'm on your podcast because you have a huge white female audience and I really need their vote. All of this is essentially world leaders reducing themselves to clout chasing and content creators selling their souls for a check.
Explain how a bill becomes a law.
And it is embarrassing for everyone.
I swear to God, if I see either candidate do any content with the Hawk Tuah girl, I'm voting for D, none of the above. Thanks for watching, and the next video you choose, make it a good one.